Okay, welcome everyone to the session of discussion. So, yes, it's your time for questions, answers, initiatives, and we are all here.
Can we all go on the camera, please? Can we turn our camera? I think we all have access to this now, so that we can see each other. And I hope the people from YouTube will join us as well.
We had some technical difficulties, but that is the first day, and
it's
we
fine.
needed
We're here. It's okay.
Yeah.
Who is you're checking the panel? I'm just seeing to see if we're gonna get anybody else here. Is Iona gonna be here? Ivan?
Well, I hope so. We are all invited, so it's up to her to
and do people who are on YouTube, do they know that they can come here?
Yes, they have been informed.
Okay. So we have two things to do. We have questions, but we also need to see what happened with the Polish presentation, because that wasn't really seen by people. So I would suggest that we can repeat that presentation. Just that I'm not sure, should we repeat that, or do we first have questions and repeat? What do you feel, Polly?
I don't mind. I mean, I'm aware people are very full up. It's been a really full morning, but if people wanted to watch what I uploaded it to YouTube while we were in the last sessions, the last presentation. So I put links in the chat.
Okay, what I would say, Polly, because seems to me there's not that many of us. I'm still going to YouTube to see where the people are. Maybe we should just do the section with the questions, and then whoever wants to stay are welcome to stay and conclude with your. By the way, how many of people have seen Polly's presentation on YouTube? We haven't seen that. Well, I think it would be fair then to see the presentation, because it's not, we may have questions for Polly, but we can't ask if we haven't seen the presentation. So let me go to YouTube to see if we have anybody there. And if you don't mind, Polly, can you start the presentation for us?
Well, I put there's links now that should work for either Vimeo. Some people couldn't get on Vimeo, in the chat, Vimeo and YouTube. I've uploaded it to YouTube as well. So if people want to click on either of those, it's 20 minutes. They should be able to see it.
Okay.
And we come back in 20 minutes.
Where is it on YouTube?
There's in the chat, in this chat just now, you should be able to see. I put a link. Can people see that?
In the YouTube chat?
No, in the chat here.
Ah, okay.
In the chat here, I put a Vimeo, the original Vimeo link, which Jonathan said he couldn't open. I don't know if anybody else had issues with that. And then there's a YouTube link. I've uploaded it to YouTube while we've been talking. So those should both work. They're public. Maybe people could just say if they can open them, and then we could go quiet and it's 20 minutes. And get out of your chair and lie on the floor or something, because.
Okay.
Okay.
Jonathan, can people open those?
Yep.
Okay, so, great.
See you in 20 minutes. Back again.
Great. Yeah, and have a cup of tea while you're listening or whatever. It's fine.
Okay, thank you.
In chat, let me get to chat.
Okay.
Okay, there's a Vimeo link and YouTube link. Okay, perfect.
Okay.
So Padas, he saw it, so Tadas can have a coffee.
Yeah, but you can have a coffee while you're listening to it anyway. Iona has just arrived. If people wanted to go and do that, that's fine. I can just explain what we're doing. Iona, we're going to...
Okay, let's start watching and Polly can explain.
Yeah.
All right. Bye, ciao.
Bye. Hi, Iona. Thanks for your presentation. There's a link to my presentation. There's been a decision, Sasha made a decision that we would watch these now because people weren't able to access them. There was an issue with the links dropping into the chat previously. So I've uploaded it to YouTube as well. There's a YouTube and a Vimeo link, and we're going to come back here in 20 minutes. I'm going to set a timer right now.
Debts over £6,000. Did you know that as a resident of
Hello, everyone, again.
Hello.
Thank you, Polly, for this calming and charming presentation at the end of this very intense morning, quite contrary to what you have.
I think it worked really well to put us back into the balance. So can we all come on the camera, please? Whoever is there. If people didn't really went off into the garden on their own now. I'm after Iona because I have questions for her because her talk is not that far away from what I'm gonna be talking about. Iona.
Well, she must be in the garden already.
Okay, let's restart.
Yeah.
Okay, questions, ideas. We heard a lot of things this morning.
Can I kick off? I don't have questions, but I have an observation. A couple of observations. Can I share those?
Sure.
I was really struck by the parallels, even though we're coming from really diverse areas of interest. So Ivan was talking about how art anticipates future history, about rituals. And for me, there's a lot of rituals in my own work, and this change of inner and outer circumstances. That's some of the things I heard in amongst the other richness of your sharing. And then there was talk of tuning this morning, which I really related to. And then in Jonathan's sharing about Zen and the digital, the notion of virtual performance and how that changes. I sent you an email directly afterwards, Jonathan. Did you see the Streets, Mike Skinner and the Streets live stream performance during the first lockdown? It was extraordinary and wonderful, and a kind of a really amazing example of how it's possible to do that without kind of sitting at a piano and trying to like it from your own nice sitting room when it doesn't really work.
Yeah. I mean, we did lots
of a piece of virtual art. He did a concert.
Yeah.
It was art. It was really wonderful.
I mean, my feeling is that there's great potential. You know, a streamed gig is more like a gig than not watching a streamed gig. Mm-hmm. If you get me. So if you watch something else, picture it like a garden with no one in it, and then you watch a concert, it's more like a concert than if you watch the garden, but it still isn't a concert. It's a representation of it. And so that's what really interested me is why they're successful and why they're not. And I think you know, from what you're saying with Mike Skinner in the Streets, and with my band, we did lots of, because we were allowed 30 people in Wales, and so we did lots of distance gigs in forests, where we took kind of battery operated equipment and projectors and projected onto ourselves in the forest. You know, the most memorable was in a complete rainstorm. We were using a very large percussion instrument called a vibraphone, and the rain was actually playing the vibraphone, creating this incredible sound within the forest. And you know, we did lots of things on the seashore, and I think that as a form it has huge potential. What I was really interested in looking at today is this point from Zen, but it's also, as so often happens, emerging from current science, really hard-edged science, both physics and neuroscience, as well as philosophy, that the computational world will never be more than that. You know, computers cannot be in a sense. They can never have conscious intelligence because they're a machine. They're a fancy calculator. And I think the problem is in the previous iteration of neuroscience understanding, we thought that consciousness emerged from extremely complex computation. And you know, this is Penrose's point, is that it doesn't. That consciousness is something else that exists in the brain in thing called tubicles, where we have large quantum operations. So that's what's really fascinating to me, is how do we get to a point where we can use all of this to actually engage with conscious operators, but through a screen. So there's an element of that happening now, isn't it? You're a conscious operator, so is Sasha, so is Ivan, etc. And we're engaging with each other, but there's that lack of the excitement and the danger of physical immanence, you know. So yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I chose examples that allowed me to look at different approaches. I think there were people who are successful, and actually most of those were people who essentially made films and then streamed them, rather than attempting to be, you know, face to face. And hi everyone. I mean, there's good things in that too. But yeah, thanks for your observation. I couldn't have this amazing jacket if I wasn't online. Look at that. Isn't that cool?
And I couldn't have taken you to last summer in inner city Birmingham.
That's it. I'm Birmingham-phobic anyway, so.
But it's not possible without the digital, right? So
but yours was very much a film rather than a stream, wasn't it? You know, if we're going to get into dividing things into different sections, and I think film has a super developed, extensive and historic presence in our lives as a successful way of making and of thinking. Yeah.
And it's that difference as well, isn't it, between I say this all the time to dance film students, but I think it's relevant for making any kind of art, film, music or whatever, that it's not about filming a live performance, it's about making new art differently, because filming a live performance is a recording of an event rather than a sharing or an exposition of a sensation or a art.
I mean, the interesting thing is the notion of the way things continue. So we already see in music that so much is lost, so much that's on a medium that we can't really access anymore. I mean, even cassette, because, you know, cassette players don't last, the rubbers go and you just can't listen to it anymore, and that's gone. And I'm intrigued by things like sculpture, which for me cannot successfully be filmed. It can't be rendered on a film. You can't get a sense of a sculpture by looking at photographs or films of it. You have to be there. So in a sense, will that disappear from our memories, from our records? You know, will sculpture become something that is marginalized? And that's what's fascinating about this whole mediatization, as people, you know, theorize it as, that actually only those things that can be photographed and then rendered into social media have value anymore. That's another interesting aspect of this, you know, especially for me from the sort of musical performance perspective, because so much is lost when it's not live, when there isn't presence. You know, and if we had an extended lockdown that went on for a decade, let's say, we probably would lose it to the point where we couldn't remember the finesse of it anymore. We couldn't remember the great achievements that were made in live stuff, you know. So interesting. Yeah.
Well, since the lockdowns are over and the communities are starting to come back together, the publicity and the public is being created once more. In UK also there are many new performances that work even as happenings, with the sharing of experience, with some collective actions. So I believe there is an opening, there is a new possibility to reclaim this public space and public time again, because we really felt during these 2 years that we needed, and the people need this public sharing of experience.
Yeah, I agree absolutely. I mean, we have a really full schedule of festivals and performances this summer, which I'm super excited about. And if it wasn't for Putin, God bless him, I think we would have what was called the Summer of Love. After the Spanish flu, that was the beginning of the so-called jazz age in the United States, where everybody went crazy. And the same in the UK when we had the bubonic plague. When it was over, everybody has a party for a year or 2 years or 3 years. Sadly, Putin, who I'm guessing is not a party guy, looking at the tables that he sits at, he's not a kind of party dude, I'm guessing he thought, well, let's just not let everybody party. Let's just do this instead. Great timing, really. But without that, so actually, we had to change our band advertising. We had some really kind of up party style 1960s US San Francisco scene advertising for this year's tour, and then suddenly we have to change it to Vietnam War demonstrations and anti-war and flowers in guns, and because everything shifted so much in that moment, but I do agree with you. I think everybody's so keen to get out and play and to be with an audience again. I mean, I don't know if the rest of you feel it. This is something that was really powerful for me is, we managed some concerts last year and the year before in the summer. And I kind of forget what it is to feel the feeling of connection to an audience. If it's been a long time since I did it, when it happens, it's almost like you were saying about the opioids. The power is almost overwhelming. Even sitting with 30 people, in a hut in a forest and doing a performance, the power is like, oh my God, I forgot what this was like, and that's really interesting that it seems quite volatile, that thing seems to be something that you need to keep repeating. You see, like pineapple juice, you have to keep drinking it because your body can't hold on to the good stuff that's in it.
I think it's about our nervous system. I think it's about how we've had to recalibrate ourselves to cope with without touch, without human contact, with the digital. And then as a consequence, I went to a rave in September and I went down, I danced for 4 hours down the front by the speakers. It took me about 2, it was amazing, but it was the first time I've been around that many people. And I had to kind of like steel myself to do it and walk through the crowd and then just got into the music. And I had blisters and it took me about 2 weeks to recover. But it's also like, I find myself saying no to a lot of social situations as well now, because my nervous system is like vibrating when there's that many people there. I think something has I think things are changing physiologically in us. And it's going to take a little while to find ourselves in connection with other people again.
There's been so many greats, hasn't there? I mean, we called our tour last year the Great Recovery because we were thinking, we were optimistically hoping the pandemic was over, and of course it wasn't. But the Great Resignation in the US, isn't it? Where they're having, millions of people resigning from their jobs because they realize it's crap. And so, this raises really interesting ideas about how the pandemic impacts on high capitalism and the division of labor, in that people now are thinking, okay, well, from school, I was told this is what I would do with my life. And I've done it. But you know what? It isn't that good. And I don't really need to do it. So, people are not going back. And it kind of reveals how carefully designed. Yeah, okay, so you're going to accuse me of a certain political position here, but that's fair enough. How the ruling classes have designed the process of life for everybody else in the countries, so that they accept their role, that they're going to do the same repetitive task and live in the same place, and you better not move. It's interesting. I actually really like that comment about the guns, not sort of promoting gun ownership, but I agree with you that those countries that are less controlled undertook less control because they knew they couldn't do it. Yeah. So, I mean, I think South Dakota was one of the highest incidences of disease in the US, and that's one of the most, well, shall we say, the least legislated place in the US. So it's an interesting idea, isn't it? You know, that people are seeing the extent to which their lives are programmed for them because of everything suddenly stopping. I'm going to sign off now because sadly I have another meeting. Oh dear. But it's been great seeing everyone and chatting and listening to all the ideas. I'll try and drop back in once the other meeting is finished. Pure training, Polly and Sasha, you will know what this is.
I'm supposed to be at it.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Well,
Jonathan.
I'm enjoying digital conference, so I'm safe.
Yeah. No, it's great to see everyone, and I really enjoyed listening to all the stuff. So see you hopefully later on.
Okay,
Bye.
thank you. So if we don't have any questions here particularly, I think we should just take a little break because we have a live performance starting very soon.
Yes, I would just like to conclude with this idea of Jonathan of reclaiming and making one's own decision about being programmed. As a subject is active, subject is the programmer. So we need to become, if we are not already, subjects in our lives, in our society. Take an active role and decide which programs do we apply on ourselves. I think that is maybe I want to draw and to take more further this conclusion from today's discussion, and to go and to actively do a gardening or whatever, but for me to be a subject in my life. Okay,
Very
thank
good.
you,
Thank
everybody. See you at 1 at the performance, and next 2.5 days. Good luck, and
Yeah, and I'm moderating the next session.